So I'm actually very, very happy to introduce Julie Nash, who was working on this project with Salim and myself, and it was an incredibly productive 2-3 years because Julie comes from a marketing and corporate background, and I come more from a natural science background. There were a lot of synergies there. And Julie, I learned a lot also from your market research that came out in the last week, things that we discussed in great content. And I think that this is truly interesting and new material also for people who are selling pearls in terms of what kind of messages are consumers receptive to. So I think everybody's really looking forward to your talk.
Thank you. So I just want to first say that this consumer research literally is hot off the press. So 2 weeks ago we got top-line results specifically for this conference. There are hundreds of things that I could say about the research. I'm going to tell you about this much. And so just a tiny little bit of it, and I'd be more than happy to be able to talk to anyone about additional information that we saw, and I'll also be putting up specific elements on our website under research. So let me get to the first element. Oh, I should also make sure to be able to thank my research partners on this. MBI Research, and regrettably they were not able to attend, but they were incredibly instrumental in terms of helping with the execution of a fairly complex questionnaire. So, you know, it's okay. It doesn't need to go on. They're just trying to raise some power here. It's okay. So the first thing I want to be able to say is that I've been working in sustainable business strategy and marketing for the last 10 years. And the question that I continually get, and the pushback that I get is, our consumers just don't care about sustainability. And I hear that over and over again in many, many different industries. And I guess that what I say is, we don't know until we ask them in the right way. When we ask them within the jewelry industry, specifically on pearls, we found that consumers are motivated to buy sustainable products if they have a clearly articulated and meaningful environmental benefit. And I'll tell you, some of the things that I thought would come out true within this research didn't, but this was the overwhelming information that came out. So, do jewelry consumers care about jewelry sustainability? And how do consumers rate sustainability messages compared with traditional jewelry messages? So these were the two main ideas that were the focal of our questionnaire. So let me give you a little bit more detail on the questionnaire. This was not a small study. This was a study that was with jewelry consumers in the United States. There were over 2,000 surveys that were administered through something called the Jewelry Consumer Opinion Council. And we selected female purchasers who would purchase for themselves or others. And all of the respondents needed to confirm that they were willing to be able to spend over $200 on a single piece of jewelry. We augmented the samples so that we made sure that we had readable results all the way from 40,000 to 150,000. So we made sure that we had a representation of the people that are going in to be able to find jewelry. We did an age range from 18 to 60. And again, this was completed in May with the first results in June. So the first question, do they care? So 78% of consumers said that they strongly or somewhat agreed to the following question. Individuals' behavior can have a positive impact on society by purchasing products sold by socially responsible companies. So do they care? Overwhelmingly, they care, and they believe that they can actually make a difference. So it's something in our marketing world that we call perceived consumer effectiveness. So they believe that their purchase decisions can have a positive effect on the world. I would not buy fine jewelry if I knew it were mined, manufactured, or sold in a socially irresponsible way. So this is the idea of consumer boycott. So we had an idea that there was this idea of consumer boycotts, and 66% of consumers said that they would not buy fine jewelry if they found out that it was done in an irresponsible way. But only 28% of consumers agreed that the fine jewelry industry was doing everything it possibly could to be socially responsible. But they also said that if a jewelry product demonstrates that it can positively impact the environment, and yes, I do stress the idea of positively impacting it, that they would be more interested in fine jewelry. And the thing that was really interesting is because we had a large number of pearl interested consumers, we were not only just able to ask general consumers, but pearl interested consumers. And the amount went up. We were also able to ask consumers based on their historical purchasing. So if individuals have paid over $1,000 for an individual piece of jewelry sometime within the last 2 years, and said that they were interested in pearls, the number went from 66 to 74. So I guess our sweet spot in terms of our target consumers really feel that this idea of positive impact can make a difference. So these are just attitudinal questions. So I will always tell you that I'm a little suspect of attitudinal questions. If you give someone a question and you say, do you want to save the world? Or don't you want to save the world? You're going to pick saving the world. So attitudinal questions can only give you so much. You really need to be able to understand this link between attitude and behaviors. And so the world that I come from in terms of consumer products, what we do are consumer product messaging tests that are able to tease out whether someone really is going to potentially make a purchase or whether they're just going to say they make a purchase. So that's how we get to the second question. How do jewelry consumers rate sustainability messages compared to traditional messages? So what we did is we asked a single consumer to be able to rate a single concept. And we had 4 different, what we call baseline messages. So one person saw one concept and answered a group of questions on that. And then what you can do is that you compare with such a large number all of those different messages to one another. So you don't have to worry about an individual deciding on sustainability because they feel like it's the right thing to do. You actually ask them based on a single question. And I can get more into methodology with others separately. I want to kind of go right to the results since we only have 15 minutes. But if you have questions, it's my life, so I can certainly talk about it in detail. So we had 4 messages. One is the traditional product-oriented messaging, which was about the timeless glamour. It focused in on the product itself, the beauty, the colors, the luster, the elegance. You can see this traditional pearl jewelry positioning a lot of different places. The second was a place-oriented positioning. So it had to do with the tropical locales where a lot of these pearls are made. So it focused in on that kind of place-oriented positioning. We had 2 sustainability messages. So the first sustainability message was typical of what you would see in an industry. It focused in on committed to minimizing environmental impact. And I think you've heard different companies actually talk to this idea of reducing footprint. Making sure that we don't tread on our ecosystems. And the other positioning that we have actually is this benefit orientation. So I think that we've heard a lot of really interesting stories that have come out speaking to this coral reef benefit. So the exact wording that we used was committed to protecting coral reefs that nurture our pearls and inspire our designs. So I'll show you the comparison between these 4. do want to tell you we looked at it across a battery of different attributes. Again, this is where you get a lot of consumer data from, but I'm going to focus in on 4 that are essential to Pearl consumers. So one is product and uniqueness. Does it attract a consumer? Do consumers see it as value? Do they see it as a high quality product? And do they actually see the message as believable? So keep these 4 ideas in your mind with the 4 concepts. So, our first results. So the question was, is this new and different from other products that are currently available? So what we saw from the research is that compared to product-oriented or minimizing impact, there was a significant difference of consumers that felt that the coral reef benefit was extremely new and different from the other positionings that are out there. And from a new product standpoint, you need to be able to break through the clutter of what is out there. So there are lots of different ways to be able to message, but this actually shows that this coral reef benefit really broke through. So this is the exact wording that we used. I won't read through it. I think everyone can read it from here. So again, this kind of surprised me a little bit because it's more sciencey in terms of the fact that when it's done responsibly, it actually uses the word biodiversity. I thought that consumers would actually shy away from that, but they didn't. The next is in terms of value. So again, when you're looking at value, one of the messages that we do to be able to get to the value is the idea that pearls are proof, that you can have a positive environmental impact and beautiful jewelry. That's the environmental benefit that went with the coral reef benefit. So again, higher level of agreement to value. Quality. Here's another thing that's very interesting. In some industries, sustainable products are looked at as actually less quality than others. Here is a demonstration of how it actually improved consumers' opinions in terms of product quality. And the 4th is message believability. So we wanted to be able to make sure that when we put this through, that they would see that this message was believable. So they saw that all of the messages were believable, but this is confirmation that you don't have any issues in terms of believability. So here are the 2 questions. We had 88 questions in the survey, so there's a lot more information here to be able to take us through, but I do want to be cognizant of time. But it is from this research we have found that the idea of committing to protecting coral reefs that nurture our pearls and inspire design it's more unique, it shows higher product quality and higher value for consumers. So over the next month or so, I'll be taking a lot more of the data that's available. There's some great information on Pearl consumers in general. And I'll make sure to be able to bring that online to Sustainable Pearls under the Resources tab so that there's a lot of information that you'll be able to go through in your future. So thank you very much.